Jasmine Williams watches in disbelief as her recorded confrontation with airline crew member Taylor Brooks goes viral, 50 million views overnight. The video shows only half the story, Taylor striking her. What the world doesn't see is what Jasmine did next that will obliterate Taylor's life forever. Before we dive into this shocking story, where are you watching from today? Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever witnessed or experienced discrimination while traveling. The events you're about to hear will make you question everything about how corporations handle racism in America. Jasmine Williams clutched her boarding pass tightly, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. At 28, this talented black fashion photographer was finally getting her big break, a career-defining photo shoot with Vogue magazine. After 6 years of building her portfolio, networking at industry events, and facing countless rejections often tinged with unspoken bias, Jasmine had finally broken through the invisible barrier. Gate beat well for Flight 873 to New York City, now boarding premium economy passengers, the announcement crackled over the loudspeaker at Atlanta International Airport. Jasmine shouldered her camera bag carefully. Inside was her professional equipment worth over $6,000, her entire life savings transformed into lenses, filters, and a top-of-the-line camera body. Beside it sat her leather portfolio containing prints of her best work, including the series on Black beauty that had finally caught the attention of Alexandria Peters, Vogue's pioneering fashion director. "This is it," Jasmine whispered to herself, joining the boarding line. "Everything changes today." The flight attendant at the gate, a middle-aged white woman with artificially brightened blonde hair and a name tag reading, Taylor Brooks, barely glanced at Jasmine's boarding pass before waving her through. Jasmine noticed how Taylor's customer service smile appeared and disappeared like a light switch as passengers moved past her, bright and welcoming for some, noticeably absent for others. Once aboard, Jasmine settled into her premium economy seat, carefully storing her precious camera bag under the seat in front of her rather than in the overhead compartment. She couldn't risk it being damaged. The portfolio she kept on her lap, unwilling to part with it even for the 3-hour flight. "Can I help you with your bag, miss?" A different flight attendant appeared beside Jasmine's seat, her name tag reading, Keisha Johnson. Her smile seemed genuine, her eyes kind. "No thank you, I've got it," Jasmine replied. "It's got my photography equipment for a really important shoot." "Congratulations. Must be something special," Keisha said warmly. Vogue magazine, Jasmine couldn't help but share, pride evident in her voice. "My first major assignment." "That's amazing. Well, if you need anything during the flight, just let me know." As the plane filled, Jasmine observed Taylor Brooks moving through the cabin, assisting passengers with their luggage and answering questions. She couldn't help but notice a pattern. Taylor would stop and chat amiably with white passengers, offering extra pillows or blankets, while interactions with passengers of color were brief and purely functional. When a white businessman in the row ahead asked about the in-flight meal options, Taylor recited the choices with detailed descriptions, even offering her personal recommendation. 10 minutes later, when an older Asian woman made the same inquiry, Taylor simply stated, "chicken or pasta," before moving on. An hour into the flight, Jasmine pressed her call button, needing water to take medication for her mild anxiety. 5 minutes passed. 10. Finally, Taylor appeared, her expression tight. "Yes." The question came out clipped and impatient. "Could I please have some water?" Jasmine asked politely. "We'll be coming around with the beverage cart shortly," Taylor replied, reaching up to switch off the call button without waiting for a response. Jasmine watched as Taylor immediately responded to a call button 3 rows ahead, bringing water promptly to a white woman who had requested it. Telling herself not to overreact, Jasmine took a deep breath and focused on reviewing her shoot concepts on her tablet. This opportunity with Vogue was too important to let anything distract her. She had prepared extensively, researching the magazine's aesthetic while planning how to incorporate her unique perspective as a black female photographer. When the beverage service began, Jasmine noticed that Taylor started from the front of the premium economy section, serving white passengers first despite the typical back-to-front service pattern. When she finally reached Jasmine's row, Taylor placed the drink on Jasmine's tray without making eye contact. "Excuse me," Jasmine said politely. "Could I please have some ice for my water?" Taylor sighed audibly. "You should have asked when I served you." "I'm asking now," Jasmine maintained her composure. "If it's not too much trouble." With visible reluctance, Taylor returned with a small cup of ice, practically dropping it on Jasmine's tray. Some of the ice cubes bounced out, one landing on Jasmine's portfolio. "Oh, I'm sorry," Taylor said, though her tone conveyed anything but remorse. From across the aisle, Keisha Johnson had been observing the interactions with growing concern. She caught Jasmine's eye and offered an apologetic smile. Midway through the flight, Taylor returned to Jasmine's row, scrutinizing her ticket yet again. "I need to verify your seat assignment," she said loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear. "You've already checked it twice," Jasmine pointed out calmly, though embarrassment heated her cheeks. "Just doing my job thoroughly," Taylor replied with an emphasis that suggested Jasmine was being difficult. A white woman sitting beside Jasmine shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. The pattern continued throughout the flight: subtle slights, unnecessary scrutiny, service that was technically adequate but markedly different from what other passengers received. As the flight began its descent into New York, Jasmine carefully packed her tablet and prepared her belongings for disembarkation. The photo shoot was scheduled for early the next morning, and she planned to review her concepts one final time at the hotel that evening. Taylor moved through the cabin with coffee service for those who wanted a final beverage before landing. When she reached Jasmine's row, the inevitable happened. Whether by carelessness or intention, Taylor's hand slipped, sending hot coffee cascading directly onto Jasmine's leather portfolio and splashing onto her camera bag. "Oh no!" Taylor exclaimed, her hand flying to her mouth in a performance of shock that didn't reach her eyes, where Jasmine caught a fleeting glimpse of something else entirely: satisfaction. "My portfolio!" Jasmine cried out, jumping up to rescue her work. Coffee had seeped through the leather case, staining the carefully curated prints inside. She unzipped her camera bag to check her equipment, finding coffee had penetrated there too, dripping ominously around her expensive camera body. "These accidents happen," Taylor said with a shrug, offering a single cocktail napkin for the cleanup. Jasmine's hands trembled as she tried to salvage her work. Years of effort, thousands of dollars of equipment, and the opportunity she had worked so hard for, all potentially ruined in an instant. As she dabbed helplessly at the coffee-soaked portfolio, she felt her professional composure beginning to crack. "I'll need to file an incident report," Jasmine said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "This contains irreplaceable work for a major client." Taylor's smile was thin and cold. "I'll see what I can do after we land," she replied dismissively, already moving away to serve the remaining passengers. Looking down at her damaged portfolio, Jasmine felt a crushing weight of realization. This wasn't just an accident. This was the culmination of a pattern, and tomorrow's career-defining opportunity hung in the balance. As passengers began disembarking, Jasmine remained in her seat, carefully documenting the damage to her portfolio and equipment with her phone camera. The leather case was irreparably stained, but more importantly, several of her showcase prints were warped and discolored where the coffee had seeped through. Her camera appeared to have escaped serious damage, but coffee had definitely entered the camera bag and she wouldn't know for certain until she could test it thoroughly. Once most passengers had left, Jasmine approached Taylor, who was chatting with another crew member near the cockpit door. "Excuse me," Jasmine said politely but firmly. "I need to file an incident report about my damaged equipment and portfolio." Taylor turned slowly, her customer service smile nowhere in sight. "What seems to be the problem?" "The coffee you spilled has damaged my professional photography equipment and portfolio for tomorrow's Vogue shoot," Jasmine explained, maintaining her composure despite her racing heart. "I'll need documentation for insurance purposes and possible compensation from the airline." Taylor's expression hardened. "I didn't spill anything." Turbulence caused a minor accident that you're clearly blowing out of proportion. There was no turbulence, Jasmine replied, her voice level. And I need this documented properly. These materials are essential for my work. Look, Taylor sighed dramatically, these things happen during flights. If you packed properly, your items wouldn't have been damaged. Jasmine felt her professional demeanor beginning to crack under the weight of Taylor's dismissiveness. My items were packed properly. The coffee spilled directly onto them. Are you accusing me of deliberately spilling coffee on your things? Taylor's voice rose slightly, drawing attention from nearby crew members. I'm stating facts. I need an incident report filed. Taylor crossed her arms. You people always want to make everything about race, don't you? The words hung in the air like a slap. Jasmine hadn't mentioned race at all, yet Taylor had immediately gone there. This isn't about race, Jasmine said carefully. This is about damaged professional equipment that I need for work tomorrow. You're playing the race card, Taylor insisted loudly. I've been nothing but professional this entire flight. Several remaining passengers turned to observe the confrontation. Jasmine noticed their curious glances and felt her chest tighten with the familiar pressure of being watched, judged, reduced to a stereotype. The moment brought back painful memories from throughout her career. The photography professor who had suggested she stick to urban subjects rather than fashion. The gallery owner who claimed her work was too niche for their mainstream audience. The countless times she'd been mistaken for an assistant rather than the photographer in charge. Making a split-second decision, Jasmine pulled out her phone and began recording. I'd like to document this interaction, she stated calmly. I've asked for an incident report for damaged professional equipment, and you've refused and accused me of playing the race card when I never mentioned race. Taylor's expression changed instantly at the sight of the phone. You cannot record me without my permission, she snapped, her voice rising. That's against airline policy. Actually, Keisha Johnson interjected, appearing beside them, while we request passengers not film during flights for safety, there's no policy against recording interactions like this one. Ms. Williams has a right to document this incident. Taylor shot Keisha a venomous look before turning back to Jasmine. Turn that off immediately. I'm simply documenting our conversation, Jasmine replied. If you're following proper procedures, there shouldn't be any problem with that. Several passengers had paused their departure to witness the escalating situation. A middle-aged white woman stepped forward. The flight attendant is right, she said. You're being aggressive and making everyone uncomfortable. I'm standing still, speaking calmly, and requesting documentation for damaged property, Jasmine pointed out, her phone still recording. An older black man spoke up from nearby. She has every right to document this. I saw that coffee spill, and it didn't look accidental to me. The cabin was quickly dividing into two camps. Several white passengers clustered near Taylor, muttering about troublemakers and playing victim, while a smaller, more diverse group of passengers stood near Jasmine, some recording the interaction on their own phones. This is getting ridiculous, Taylor snapped. Put that phone away or I'll call security. For what? Jasmine asked. Requesting an incident report. For creating a disturbance, Taylor replied. You're holding up deplaning procedures. I'll leave as soon as you provide me with the proper documentation for my damaged property, Jasmine insisted, her resolve strengthening despite her racing heart. Taylor stepped closer, her face contorted with anger. I said, turn that off. She lunged forward, striking at Jasmine's phone. In the chaos of the moment, Taylor's hand connected not just with the phone but with Jasmine's hand and face. The impact wasn't severe, but it was unmistakably physical contact. Jasmine instinctively raised her free hand in a defensive gesture, backing away. The video recording captured Taylor's striking motion clearly before ending abruptly as the phone was knocked from Jasmine's grasp. She hit me. Taylor shouted dramatically, though everyone had seen that it was she who had made contact with Jasmine. Did you all see that? She attacked me. That's not what happened, Keisha protested, but her voice was drowned out by Taylor's continued accusations. Within moments, 2 airline security officers appeared in the cabin doorway. "What's going on here?" the taller officer demanded. "This passenger assaulted me," Taylor declared before anyone else could speak. "I want her arrested." "That's absolutely false," Jasmine replied, her voice shaking slightly as she retrieved her phone from the floor. "I have video evidence of what actually happened. Both of you need to come with us," the security officer stated firmly. "The rest of the passengers need to deplane now." As Jasmine gathered her damaged portfolio and equipment, she felt a crushing sense of dread. What should have been the eve of her greatest professional triumph was spiraling into a nightmare, and based on the security officer's demeanor, cautious and stern toward her, sympathetic toward Taylor, she suspected things were about to get worse. The fluorescent lights of the airport security office buzzed overhead as Jasmine sat rigidly in an uncomfortable plastic chair. Her damaged portfolio lay beside her, a dark coffee stain spreading across the leather like a malignant growth. 2 hours had passed since she'd been escorted off the plane, separated from Taylor Brooks, and brought to this sterile room for questioning. "Ms. Williams, please explain again what happened prior to the physical altercation," Officer Daniels, a middle-aged white man with thinning hair and a perpetual frown, repeated for the 3rd time. "As I've stated twice already," Jasmine replied, struggling to maintain her composure, "there was no altercation. The flight attendant deliberately spilled coffee on my professional equipment. When I requested an incident report, she refused and became hostile. I began recording the interaction for documentation, and she struck at my phone, hitting my hand and face in the process." "And you didn't raise your hand toward her at any point?" Officer Daniels asked skeptically. "Only to protect myself after she had already made contact with me," Jasmine explained. Officer Daniels made a non-committal noise and jotted something in his notepad. "Several witnesses claim you were being aggressive and confrontational. Did these witnesses include the black passengers who saw the entire interaction? Or the other flight attendant, Keisha Johnson?" Jasmine asked pointedly. Officer Daniels ignored the question. "Ms. Brooks claims you threatened her." "That's completely false," Jasmine insisted. "I have video evidence of the interaction up until the moment she struck my phone from my hand." "We'll review that," Officer Daniels said without enthusiasm. "But phone recordings can be misleading without proper context." The door opened, and another security officer entered. Anthony Parker was taller than Daniels, with broad shoulders and a serious expression that softened slightly when he saw Jasmine. "I need a word," Parker said to Daniels, who reluctantly stepped outside with him. Alone in the room, Jasmine checked her phone. 3 missed calls from the Vogue photo coordinator. Her shoot was scheduled for 8 o'clock the next morning, just 12 hours away, and she was still detained in airport security, her equipment possibly damaged, her portfolio definitely compromised. The door opened again, and Officer Parker entered alone. "Ms. Williams," he said, his voice lower and more sympathetic than Daniels had been. "I've reviewed the preliminary reports and witness statements. There are some inconsistencies I'm concerned about." "Meaning?" Jasmine asked cautiously. Parker glanced at the door before continuing. "Meaning the witness statements we've gathered seem selectively chosen. I spoke with the flight attendant named Keisha Johnson, and her account differs significantly from the official report." He slid a business card across the table. "I can't officially advise you, but if I were in your position, I'd consult an attorney before making any further statements. The airline has a vested interest in protecting their employee, regardless of what actually happened." Jasmine stared at the card, then at Parker. "Am I being charged with something?" "Not at this time," Parker replied. "But this situation could escalate quickly. Document everything, save any evidence, and know your rights." Before she could respond, Officer Daniels returned. "You're free to go for now, Ms. Williams," he announced without warmth. "The airline has decided not to press charges at this time, though this incident will be noted in their records." What about my damaged equipment and portfolio? Jasmine asked. I need documentation for insurance and compensation. You'll need to take that up with customer service, Daniels replied dismissively. We only handle security matters. Gathering her belongings, Jasmine checked the time again, 7:42 p.m. Her connecting flight to Manhattan had departed 3 hours ago. At the airline's customer service desk, a representative named Brandon listened to her account with practiced neutrality before offering a standardized response. We apologize for any inconvenience experienced during your flight today, he recited, his eyes never leaving his computer screen. I can rebook you on tomorrow morning's first flight to New York, departing at 6:30 a.m. That's not good enough, Jasmine insisted. I have a professional photo shoot at 8 o'clock. I need to be in New York tonight. And I need documentation about the damage to my property caused by your flight attendant. Brandon's expression remained impassive. I can provide a standard incident form for your insurance claim, but regarding the specific allegations about our crew member, the airline's official position is that any beverage spillage was the result of routine turbulence during flight service. That's not what happened, Jasmine said, frustration edging into her voice. There was no turbulence. I have partial video evidence and multiple witnesses. I understand you're upset, Brandon replied mechanically, but I can only offer solutions within company policy. The earliest flight available is 6:30 tomorrow morning. Defeated, Jasmine accepted the rebooking and the generic incident form that made no mention of Taylor Brooks or deliberate action. In the airport hotel room she was forced to book at her own expense. She called the Vogue coordinator to explain the situation. I'm so sorry to hear about your travel issues, the coordinator said, her voice cooling noticeably as Jasmine explained. But we have a very tight schedule. The model, makeup team, and lighting crew are all booked specifically for tomorrow morning's slot. I understand, Jasmine replied desperately. I'll be on the first flight out. I can still make it by 9:30. That's problematic, the coordinator responded. But let me consult with Alexandria and get back to you. The return call came 30 minutes later. The verdict was clear. They would proceed with their backup photographer who was already in New York. Jasmine could be considered for future assignments if this one went well. Just like that, her breakthrough opportunity vanished. Alone in the sterile hotel room, Jasmine carefully examined her equipment. The camera seemed functional, though coffee had definitely seeped into the bag and some buttons felt sticky. The portfolio was another matter entirely. Several key prints were warped beyond salvation, the careful curation of her best work now literally stained by what had transpired. After sending a formal complaint email to the airline's customer relations department, Jasmine received an automated response. Thank you for sharing your concerns. At American Airways, we take all passenger feedback seriously. A representative will review your submission within 5 to 7 business days. By midnight, emotionally exhausted and professionally devastated, Jasmine made a decision. Opening her social media account, she uploaded the video clip of her interaction with Taylor Brooks. The footage clearly showed Taylor's hostile demeanor and the moment she struck at Jasmine's phone, making contact with her hand and face. Jasmine added a simple caption. This is what happened when I asked for documentation after an American Airways flight attendant deliberately spilled coffee on my photography equipment before my career-defining Vogue shoot. #traveling while black. Turning off her phone, she finally fell into a restless sleep, unaware that her video was already beginning to circulate widely across social media platforms. At 5:30 a.m., Jasmine's phone rang, waking her from fitful sleep. It was her agent, Lawrence. Jasmine, what the hell is going on? Vogue just called me. They're reconsidering your assignment, due to some concerning controversy. What controversy? Still groggy, Jasmine checked her social media accounts and froze. Her video had been viewed over 50 million times overnight. The #justice for Jasmine was trending nationally. Oh my God, she whispered, scrolling through thousands of comments, shares, and news articles already analyzing the footage. "Jasmine?" Lawrence prompted. "Talk to me. Is this going to be a problem for us?" The irony wasn't lost on her. After years of struggle against systemic barriers, she had finally secured her dream opportunity, only to have it snatched away by the very discrimination she had fought against. And now, her attempt to document that discrimination might cost her what remained of her professional reputation. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I couldn't stay silent. Not this time." The video of Taylor Brooks striking Jasmine Williams had become the focal point of a national conversation on race within 24 hours of being posted. Major news networks ran the footage on continuous loops, social media platforms were flooded with heated debates, and both Jasmine and Taylor found themselves thrust into an unwanted spotlight. Breaking news tonight as viral video shows an airline crew member appearing to strike a black female passenger, announced CNN anchor Dwayne Mitchell. The passenger, identified as professional photographer Jasmine Williams, claims the incident occurred after she requested documentation for damaged equipment. The airline has issued a statement saying they are investigating the matter fully and the crew member in question has been placed on administrative leave. Internet sleuths had quickly identified Taylor Brooks, finding her social media accounts and personal information within hours. By morning, Taylor had received hundreds of threatening messages and had been forced to deactivate all her social profiles due to the harassment. In the executive offices of American Airways, Michael Reynolds, the airline's 45-year-old PR executive, assembled his crisis management team. With 20 years of experience navigating corporate scandals, Reynolds had built his reputation on his ability to reshape narratives and protect the company's image at all costs. "The video looks bad," Reynolds acknowledged, pacing before the conference room screen where Jasmine's viral post was displayed. "But it's incomplete. It doesn't show what led up to the moment or what followed. That gives us room to maneuver. Social media has already convicted Brooks," pointed out Sophia Chen, his deputy. The hashtag #FireTaylorBrooks has over 200,000 posts. Reynolds smiled thinly. "Social media convicts someone new every day. Our job is to change the conversation. First step, we issue a statement placing Brooks on administrative leave pending investigation. That looks responsive without admitting fault." "What about the surveillance footage from the plane?" asked another team member. "Shouldn't we review that before crafting our strategy?" Reynolds exchanged a meaningful glance with the airline's legal counsel. "Unfortunately, there seems to be a technical issue with the surveillance system on that particular flight. The footage is currently unavailable." "Convenient," muttered Sophia. Next, Reynolds continued, ignoring her comment, "We need to reshape the narrative around Williams. Has our team found anything useful in her background?" A junior staff member slid a folder across the table. "She's a photographer, aspiring to high fashion but mostly doing local commercial work. Was headed to a shoot with Vogue, which she missed due to this incident. Social media history shows some posts that could be characterized as confrontational about racial issues in the fashion industry." Reynolds nodded thoughtfully. "Perfect. We leak, subtly, through trusted media contacts, that Williams has a history of making racially charged statements. We suggest she was aggressive and unprofessional during the flight, creating a hostile environment that put our crew in a difficult position." "But is that accurate?" Sophia challenged. "The other flight attendant's incident report doesn't align with that characterization. Which is why," Reynolds said smoothly, "we'll be conducting additional interviews with select passengers who can provide a more balanced perspective. I believe several have already contacted customer relations to express support for our crew member." By afternoon, carefully edited passenger accounts began appearing in media reports, describing Jasmine as confrontational, looking for trouble, and playing the race card. These select passengers, predominantly white and middle-aged, painted a picture of Taylor Brooks as a dedicated professional pushed to her breaking point by an unreasonable passenger. Meanwhile, at Vogue's Manhattan offices, Alexandria Peters sat in stunned silence as she watched the viral video for the third time. "This is the photographer we hired for tomorrow's shoot," she asked her assistant. "Yes, but she missed her connection due to this incident. We've already confirmed Jerome as her replacement." Alexandria frowned. The video clearly shows the flight attendant striking her, yet half the comments are attacking the photographer. This is exactly the kind of systemic issue our September issue on diversity was meant to highlight. Her assistant shifted uncomfortably. "Marketing is concerned about association with a controversial figure. They're suggesting we officially cancel her assignment to distance ourselves." Alexandria's phone rang, the CEO's office. After a brief conversation, her expression hardened. "Apparently, we need to avoid controversy during a delicate advertising quarter," she reported bitterly after hanging up. "Send Williams an official cancellation citing unprofessional conduct as the reason." Corporate cowardice at its finest. As the backlash intensified, Jasmine sat alone in her Atlanta apartment, watching her professional reputation unravel in real time. Her social media accounts flooded with a mixture of support and vicious attacks. Her inbox filled with both interview requests and hate mail. The airline's carefully leaked narrative had taken root, casting her as an opportunist who had manufactured controversy for attention. Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly and felt powerless to help them? Comment number 1 if you believe Jasmine was right to record the interaction. Comment number 2 if you think she should have handled it differently. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about standing up against injustice. And ask yourself, what would you do if you were in Jasmine's position, watching your career crumble because you dared to document discrimination? Is the truth enough when facing a powerful corporation determined to protect its image? Jasmine's phone vibrated with an incoming call from an unknown number. After days of fielding media requests and abusive messages, she nearly declined it, but something made her answer. "Is this Jasmine Williams?" A woman's voice, hushed and cautious. "Yes." "Who's calling?" "This is Keisha Johnson, the flight attendant from your flight. We need to talk, but not over the phone. Can you meet me?" 30 minutes later, Jasmine sat in a quiet corner of a small coffee shop 5 miles from the airport. Keisha arrived wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, glancing nervously around before sitting down. "I'm risking my job by talking to you," Keisha began without preamble. "But what they're doing isn't right." "What who is doing?" "The airline. Their PR team. Taylor. All of them." Keisha pulled out her phone. A passenger in first class recorded the entire interaction from a different angle. "He sent it to me because he witnessed Taylor's behavior throughout the flight and was disgusted by the company's official statement." Keisha pressed play on a video that showed the confrontation from behind Jasmine. Unlike Jasmine's abruptly ended recording, this one captured the entire incident, including the crucial moments after Taylor struck her. The footage clearly showed Jasmine simply backing away with her hands raised defensively, making no aggressive moves whatsoever. "This changes everything," Jasmine breathed. "There's more," Keisha said, leaning forward. "Taylor has a history of similar incidents with passengers of color. 3 complaints were filed last year alone, all mysteriously resolved with no disciplinary action. One of the supervisors joked that she has friends in high places." "Why are you telling me this?" Jasmine asked. Keisha removed her sunglasses, revealing tired eyes. "Because I've seen this pattern too many times. The company protects people like Taylor while passengers like you get painted as troublemakers. It's not right, and it's not going to change unless someone forces it to." As Keisha prepared to leave, she added, "There's an attorney you should contact. Darnell Washington. He specializes in cases like yours and has successfully challenged the airline before." 2 days later, Jasmine sat across from Darnell Washington in his modest downtown office. At 47, Washington had built a reputation as a tenacious civil rights attorney who took on corporate giants and frequently won. The additional footage is compelling, Washington acknowledged after reviewing both videos. But you should understand what you're up against. American Airways has a $50 million annual legal budget and a history of aggressive defense tactics. They'll investigate every aspect of your life looking for anything to discredit you. They already are, Jasmine replied, showing him the online articles questioning her motives and character. I've lost my Vogue assignment. 3 regular clients have cancelled contracts. My agent says no one wants to risk the association. Washington nodded grimly. That's their playbook. Character assassination and economic pressure to force quick, quiet settlements. I don't want a settlement, Jasmine said firmly. I want the truth to come out. Then you need to be prepared for what's coming. Depression. Anxiety. Financial strain. Are you ready for that fight? Jasmine thought about her damaged portfolio, her lost opportunity, the countless other travelers who had faced similar discrimination in silence. I don't have much left to lose, she answered honestly. In the following days, the online harassment intensified. Jasmine's old social media posts about racial inequality in the fashion industry were screenshotted, stripped of context, and circulated as evidence of her being race-obsessed and looking for opportunities to claim victimhood. Anonymous accounts posted altered images of her with captions too vile to repeat. Her personal phone number was leaked, resulting in constant calls with threatening messages or dead silence. She stopped answering unknown numbers entirely. The physical and emotional toll mounted quickly. Jasmine found herself unable to sleep for more than a few hours at a time. Her appetite vanished. She jumped at unexpected noises and developed a fear of going out in public where she might be recognized. Meanwhile, Taylor Brooks was emerging as a sympathetic figure in certain media circles. She gave a tearful exclusive interview to a conservative news outlet, describing herself as the victim of cancel culture. I've dedicated 12 years to serving passengers with professionalism and care, Taylor said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Now my life is being destroyed because of a misunderstanding that was deliberately taken out of context. The interviewer nodded sympathetically. And you've received death threats? Hundreds, Taylor confirmed. I've had to move in with my sister. I can't even walk my dog without fear of being recognized and attacked. Michael Reynolds watched the interview with satisfaction from his office. The PR executive had personally coached Taylor on her talking points, carefully crafting her image as a dedicated public servant being persecuted by irrational social justice warriors. The victim narrative is gaining traction, he informed the airline's CEO during their daily crisis update. We've secured supportive statements from the Flight Attendants Union and 3 passenger advocacy groups, all emphasizing the importance of respecting crew authority and the dangers of social media mob justice. What about Williams? The CEO asked. Our strategy is working, Reynolds assured him. Her professional contacts are distancing themselves. We've had several passengers contact us offering statements about her behavior during the flight. And our friends in the media are asking the right questions about her motives and history. What Reynolds didn't mention was the pressure his team had applied to silence contrary voices. Keisha Johnson had been reassigned to international routes with minimal notice. Other crew members who had witnessed Taylor's pattern of behavior were reminded of their confidentiality agreements. Passengers who had contacted the airline supporting Jasmine's account found their emails mysteriously lost in the system. Jasmine, unaware of the full extent of the campaign against her, sat in Darnell Washington's office reviewing another round of cancelled contracts. Her savings were dwindling rapidly, and the promised high-profile photography assignments that would have followed the Vogue shoot had evaporated. They're winning, she admitted, her voice hollow. I can't pay my rent next month. No one will hire me. Half the country thinks I'm a professional victim who attacked an innocent flight attendant. Washington leaned forward. This was always their strategy, break you down until you give up or accept a minimal settlement with a non-disclosure agreement. But something interesting just happened. A man named Anthony Parker called my office. He's a security officer at the airport who says the official security reports were altered to remove witness statements supporting your account. A flicker of hope ignited in Jasmine's chest. The officer who gave me his card? He's willing to come forward. He is. And he's not alone. We're building a case, Jasmine. The truth takes time, but it has a way of finding the light. As Jasmine left Washington's office, her phone pinged with a notification. Taylor Brooks was being featured on a primetime special titled, Cancel Culture Victims, When Social Media Becomes the Judge and Jury. The conservative media had fully embraced Taylor as their newest symbol in the culture wars, portraying her as a hardworking American being persecuted for a momentary mistake. Scrolling through the comments under the program's announcement, Jasmine felt a wave of despair at the vitriol directed at her. People who had never met her confidently declared her a fraud, an attention seeker, even a racist against white people. Then her phone chimed with an encrypted message from an unknown sender: "Not everyone believes their lies. Check your email for backup systems access. The truth is still out there." BT. Darnell Washington assembled his legal team in the conference room of his modest law office. Maps, timelines, and profiles covered the walls, the beginnings of a comprehensive case against American Airways and Taylor Brooks. "We've identified a pattern of similar incidents involving this particular flight attendant," Washington explained to Jasmine, pointing to a chart documenting complaints filed against Taylor Brooks over the past 3 years. 5 formal complaints from passengers of color, all mysteriously resolved with no disciplinary action. "How did you get this information?" Jasmine asked, studying the detailed documentation. "Anonymous emails," Washington replied. "Someone inside the airline is taking significant risks to provide this evidence." The mysterious emails had begun arriving 3 days earlier. Internal complaint forms, personnel records, and most damning of all, emails between Taylor Brooks and Michael Reynolds dating back 2 years, showing a personal relationship that explained how Taylor had repeatedly escaped consequences for her actions. Anthony Parker, the airport security officer who had quietly advised Jasmine during her initial detention, had formally joined their efforts, providing sworn testimony about how the original witness statements had been selectively edited in the official security report. "They removed statements from 3 passengers who corroborated your account," Parker explained during his deposition. "Including an elderly black man who clearly stated he witnessed Taylor Brooks deliberately spill coffee on your belongings. Why risk your job to help me?" Jasmine asked him afterward. Parker's expression grew solemn. "My daughter experienced something similar last year on a different airline. She stayed quiet, accepted a voucher, and has regretted it ever since. Some things matter more than job security." Meanwhile, Jordan Hayes, an investigative journalist known for exposing corporate malfeasance, had begun quietly digging into American Airways' history of handling discrimination complaints. He had reached out to Jasmine through Washington, requesting an interview as part of a broader investigation. "I'm not interested in the viral moment," Hayes explained during their first meeting. "I'm looking at the systemic issues. Your case isn't isolated, it's part of a pattern." Hayes, a veteran reporter with 20 years of experience, had already compiled data showing that the airline handled complaints differently based on the race of the passenger filing them. White passengers received compensation and resolution at nearly triple the rate of black passengers filing similar complaints. "The numbers tell a clear story," Hayes noted, showing Jasmine his preliminary findings. "But I need insider accounts to put human faces to the statistics." As Hayes continued his investigation, he received an anonymous tip about Taylor Brooks' private social media accounts, separate from her public profiles that presented a professional, friendly image. What he found was disturbing: years of posts containing racist jokes, derogatory terms for passengers of color, and complaints about playing nice with people she clearly disdained. In one particularly damning post from just 2 months earlier, Taylor had written, "Had another one playing the victim card today, these people think first class means they're actually first class citizens. #serving with a smile #dying inside." The post included a selfie of Taylor with an exaggerated smile and rolling eyes, taken in an airplane galley. Hayes verified the authenticity of the accounts through multiple sources before incorporating them into his investigation. The evidence painted a picture not just of an individual with racist views, but of a corporate culture that enabled and protected that behavior. At American Airways headquarters, Michael Reynolds was growing increasingly concerned about information leaks. The carefully crafted narrative he had built was showing cracks as more employees came forward with contradictory information. "We need to identify the sources of these leaks immediately," he instructed his team during an emergency meeting. "Check access logs, email records, anything that might indicate who's communicating with Williams or her attorney." What Reynolds didn't know was that Benjamin Torres, the airline's IT security specialist, was the primary source of the leaked documents. Torres had been monitoring the company's internal handling of the incident and had become increasingly disturbed by the deliberate manipulation of evidence and witness statements. "They're discussing ways to discredit you rather than addressing what actually happened," Torres explained in an encrypted message to Jordan Hayes. "I can provide access to the cloud backup of the plane's security system. The footage they claimed was unavailable exists, and it clearly shows the entire incident." For Jasmine, the mounting evidence brought mixed emotions. Vindication, yes, but also a deepening awareness of how close she had come to being permanently silenced by a system designed to protect itself at all costs. The mental toll continued to mount. She had begun seeing a therapist to address the anxiety and depression that had developed in the wake of the incident. Her previously thriving career remained in tatters, with potential clients still wary of association with controversy. "It's not just about clearing my name anymore," she confided to Washington during a case update meeting. "It's about making sure this doesn't happen to someone else." Washington nodded in understanding. That's often how meaningful change begins, not from institutions deciding to do better, but from individuals refusing to accept injustice. Taylor Brooks, meanwhile, had become something of a celebrity in certain circles. Her GoFundMe campaign for legal expenses and lost wages had raised over $100,000. She made regular appearances on talk shows that framed her as a victim of cancel culture, carefully avoiding any discussion of the actual incident or her history of similar behaviors. As Jordan Hayes' investigation progressed, he uncovered internal communications showing that American Airways executives were well aware of the discriminatory treatment certain passengers received but considered addressing it, not cost-effective, compared to settling the occasional lawsuit that made it past their legal defenses. One particularly damning email from Michael Reynolds to the airline's legal department read, "Implementing the recommended diversity training would cost approximately $3 million annually across all staff. Our current approach of strategic settlements averages $800,000 per year." The math speaks for itself. Hayes compiled his findings into a comprehensive exposé, but needed one final piece to complete the picture, the security footage that would definitively show what happened on the plane. That's when Benjamin Torres made his most dangerous move yet, using his security clearance to access the supposedly unavailable footage from the cloud backup system. What he found confirmed everything Jasmine had claimed: Taylor deliberately spilling coffee, the subsequent confrontation, and most importantly, Taylor clearly striking Jasmine while Jasmine made no aggressive moves whatsoever. "I'm risking everything by providing this," Torres told Hayes during a clandestine meeting. "But they've been lying to everyone, the public, their own employees, even the board of directors. Someone has to hold them accountable." Armed with the complete footage and extensive documentation of the airline's pattern of discrimination and subsequent cover-up attempts, Hayes contacted his editor at The Atlantic. "This isn't just about one incident on one flight," he explained. "It's about a corporate culture that systematically discriminates, then uses its power to silence victims and manipulate public perception. It's happening right now, in real time, and we have the receipts." The editor agreed immediately. The story would run in 3 days. Jordan Hayes' exposé in The Atlantic hit like a bombshell: above the clouds, below the standards, how American Airways systematically discriminates against passengers of color. The comprehensive article detailed not just Jasmine's experience, but placed it within a larger pattern of discrimination at the airline, supported by internal documents, employee testimonies, and statistical analysis. Most devastatingly, it included stills from the security footage Benjamin Torres had recovered, clearly showing Taylor Brooks deliberately spilling coffee on Jasmine's belongings and later striking her without provocation. Within hours of publication, other media outlets picked up the story. Cable news networks ran segments analyzing the security footage frame by frame. Social media exploded with renewed outrage, this time directed at the airline and its handling of the incident. American Airways is aware of the recent article containing serious allegations about our company practices, the airline's hastily issued statement read. We are reviewing the claims made and will respond more fully after a thorough investigation. Behind closed doors, the airline's executive team was in crisis mode. The CEO summoned Michael Reynolds to explain how the situation had spiraled so dramatically out of control. You assured me this was handled, the CEO said icily, tossing a printed copy of Hayes' article onto the conference table. Now we have whistleblowers, leaked documents, and security footage we claimed didn't exist plastered across national media. Reynolds shifted uncomfortably. We had containment protocols in place. Someone with high-level access deliberately circumvented them. That's your excuse. One of our own employees felt so disturbed by our handling of this that they risked their career to expose it. What does that say about the culture you've created in your department? Before Reynolds could respond, the general counsel interrupted with breaking news. The complete security footage has just been released online. It shows the entire incident, including Brooks' behavior throughout the flight. It's unambiguous. The unedited footage confirmed everything Jasmine had claimed and worse. It captured Taylor's pattern of discriminatory service throughout the flight, the deliberate coffee spill, and the physical strike that followed. Most damningly, it showed Taylor's smirk immediately after the coffee spill, a momentary expression of satisfaction that demolished any claim of accident. Public opinion shifted overnight. The hashtag boycott American Airways began trending globally. The airline's stock price dropped 15% in a single trading day. Celebrity customers publicly canceled their loyalty memberships. Partner companies issued statements reconsidering their relationships with the airline. Taylor Brooks, suddenly toxic to the very media outlets that had championed her cause, found her interviews canceled and support evaporating. Her tearful narrative collapsed in the face of irrefutable visual evidence. The GoFundMe platform froze her fundraising campaign pending investigation of fraudulent claims. For Jasmine, the vindication brought complex emotions. I should feel triumphant, she confided to Washington as they watched the story dominate the news cycle. Instead, I just feel exhausted. My career is still in ruins. Nothing has really changed for me personally. Not yet, Washington acknowledged. But accountability is the first step toward justice. And speaking of accountability, he held up his phone, displaying an email notification. The airline's general counsel just requested an urgent meeting to discuss settlement options. Meanwhile, Keisha Johnson had been organizing in the background. Inspired by Jasmine's refusal to be silenced, she had connected with other flight attendants who had witnessed or experienced discrimination within the company. What began as informal conversations had evolved into a formal group of 27 employees prepared to testify about the airline's discriminatory practices. It was never just about Taylor Brooks, Keisha explained during a Zoom call with Washington's legal team. She's a symptom of a culture that rewards certain behaviors and punishes those who speak up against them. We have documentation going back 5 years showing how complaints about discriminatory treatment were systematically buried or dismissed. The airline's leadership, recognizing the existential threat to their brand, took dramatic action. Taylor Brooks was terminated immediately. Michael Reynolds was placed on administrative leave pending internal investigation. A prominent civil rights leader was appointed to head an independent review of the company's practices. But Darnell Washington wasn't satisfied with symbolic gestures. With the evidence secured by Hayes and Torres, he filed a comprehensive lawsuit against American Airways, alleging not just discrimination against Jasmine, but a systematic pattern of civil rights violations, evidence tampering, and defamation. "We're not interested in a confidential settlement with an NDA," Washington informed the airline's legal team during their first negotiation session. "My client seeks structural changes, public accountability, and appropriate compensation for the damage to her reputation and career." As the legal process advanced, Jasmine received an unexpected call from Alexandria Peters at Vogue. "I owe you an apology," Alexandria began without preamble. "We failed you professionally and morally by canceling your assignment based on pressure from above. I should have stood firm on principle." "Thank you for saying that," Jasmine replied, surprised by the admission. "I'd like to make amends," Alexandria continued. "We want to offer you the cover shoot for our special issue on resilience and justice. Full creative control, your vision, your voice. No corporate interference this time, I've secured written guarantees from leadership." The offer represented everything Jasmine had dreamed of professionally. A Vogue cover shoot with creative freedom was the pinnacle of fashion photography. Yet she hesitated. "I appreciate the offer, truly. But I need to think about it. My story has become so public, so politicized. I don't want my first major work to be defined by trauma." "I understand completely," Alexandria assured her. "The offer remains open. Your talent deserves recognition on its own merits, whenever you're ready." As the lawsuit progressed, more victims of similar discrimination came forward, transforming what began as an individual incident into a class action case representing dozens of passengers who had experienced racial bias on American Airways flights. Benjamin Torres, whose identity as the whistleblower had been discovered during the airline's internal investigation, was initially terminated for security violations. However, his attorney immediately filed for whistleblower protections, and public pressure forced the airline to reinstate him pending legal proceedings. The security footage, now viewed by millions, had permanently changed the narrative. What Taylor Brooks and American Airways had tried to frame as an isolated misunderstanding was now undeniably revealed as a clear case of discrimination, followed by corporate malfeasance to cover it up. For Jasmine, watching the truth finally emerge brought a measure of peace, though the journey had forever changed her. "I never wanted to be an activist," she reflected during a quiet moment with Keisha. "I just wanted to take photographs and build my career. But sometimes life chooses your path for you." Keisha nodded in understanding. "That's how change happens. Not from people seeking the spotlight, but from those who simply refuse to accept injustice when it's directed at them." 3 months after Jordan Hayes' explosive exposé, the fallout continued to reshape both individual lives and corporate America. American Airways stock had plummeted 30%, wiping billions from its market value. A congressional hearing on discrimination in the airline industry had been scheduled, with Jasmine invited to testify about her experience. The lawsuit filed by Darnell Washington had expanded significantly as more passengers came forward with similar experiences. The judge had certified it as a class action case representing over 200 individuals who alleged racial discrimination by the airline over a 5-year period. "We're no longer just seeking damages for Ms. Williams," Washington explained during a press conference on the courthouse steps. "We're demanding systematic change in how airlines train their staff, handle complaints, and hold employees accountable for discriminatory behavior." Taylor Brooks, once the darling of conservative media, had become untouchable after the release of the unedited security footage. Her previous defenders quietly distanced themselves as her private social media posts were made public, revealing years of racist comments. Unable to find employment in the airline industry, she faced mounting legal troubles, including potential criminal charges for assault and filing false police reports. Michael Reynolds had been terminated following an internal investigation that revealed his direct involvement in suppressing evidence and crafting false narratives. Email records showed he had personally ordered the deletion of security footage and the selective editing of witness statements. 3 other executives who had participated in the cover-up were also removed, sending a clear message throughout corporate America about the potential consequences of mishandling discrimination cases. For Jasmine, life had taken unexpected turns. Major brands that had previously distanced themselves now sought her out for diversity campaigns, eager to associate with a symbol of resistance against corporate discrimination. Fashion magazines that had cancelled her assignments now offered cover shoots and feature spreads. The irony wasn't lost on her. "My career is now defined by something that almost destroyed it," she confided to Darnell during a case preparation meeting. "I'm grateful for the opportunities, but they're coming for reasons unrelated to my actual photography skills." "That's often how it works," Darnell acknowledged. Rosa Parks was a seamstress, not a professional activist. "Sometimes our most important contributions aren't the ones we plan to make." Alexandria Peters from Vogue had been persistent, repeatedly reaching out with increasingly attractive offers. The magazine now proposed not just a cover shoot, but a featured photo essay on resilience and justice, allowing Jasmine to tell stories through her lens that reflected her experience and perspective. After weeks of consideration, Jasmine finally accepted. "I realized I can use this platform to highlight others facing similar battles with less visibility," she explained to Alexandria during their planning meeting. "If my experience can open doors for other voices, then something meaningful has come from it." The airline industry as a whole began implementing changes in response to the scandal. Major carriers announced enhanced diversity training programs, revised complaint procedures, and independent oversight boards to review allegations of discrimination. Several airlines proactively reached out to passengers who had filed similar complaints in the past, offering compensation and acknowledgement years after the original incidents. Behind the scenes, the consequences continued to unfold in unexpected ways. Several airline executives resigned as internal documents leaked revealing a pattern of covering up discrimination complaints. The airline's board of directors hired a prominent civil rights attorney to oversee a complete overhaul of company policies and culture. Keisha Johnson, who had risked her career to support Jasmine, was vindicated by the investigation's findings. Rather than facing retaliation, she was offered a promotion to lead a newly created position focused on diversity and inclusion training for flight crews. "They're calling it the Keisha Johnson Initiative," she told Jasmine over coffee, showing her the formal announcement. "It's surreal. 3 months ago, I was being shipped off to international routes as punishment. Now they're naming a program after me." Benjamin Torres, the IT specialist who had secured the crucial security footage, received formal whistleblower protections after a brief legal battle. His actions, initially branded as security violations by the airline, were now recognized as essential to uncovering corporate wrongdoing. Several technology companies had approached him with job offers, valuing both his technical skills and his demonstrated ethical integrity. Anthony Parker, the security officer who had first advised Jasmine of her rights, testified before the airline's independent review board about the systematic alteration of security reports involving passengers of color. His testimony led to a comprehensive audit of security procedures and reporting mechanisms across all major airports. Jordan Hayes' investigative reporting on the case earned him a Pulitzer nomination and sparked similar investigations at other news outlets examining corporate handling of discrimination claims across multiple industries. As Jasmine prepared for her congressional testimony, she struggled with the complex emotions that came with her newfound platform. "I never wanted to be the face of this issue," she admitted during her preparation sessions with Washington. "I was just trying to protect my career and stand up for myself." "That's precisely why your testimony matters," Washington assured her. "You're not a professional activist with an agenda. You're someone who experienced injustice firsthand and refused to accept it. That resonates across political lines in a way that more polarizing voices can't achieve." The day before her scheduled testimony, Jasmine received an unexpected email from Vogue. Alexandria Peters had sent a preview of the magazine cover featuring Jasmine's photography, not of herself, but of other individuals who had faced discrimination and found their voice. The headline read simply, "The Power of Bearing Witness." For the first time since the coffee had spilled across her portfolio months earlier, Jasmine felt the full weight of her journey, the loss, the fear, the vindication, and finally, the possibility that something meaningful might emerge from her ordeal. Her photography would reach millions, not as she had originally planned, but perhaps with even greater purpose. Are you ready for tomorrow? Washington asked during their final preparation call. I think so, Jasmine replied, studying the Vogue cover on her screen. I'm ready to tell the truth. The whole truth, not just about what happened to me, but about what happens to so many others who don't have security footage to vindicate them. 6 months after the incident that had transformed her life, Jasmine Williams stood before a packed gallery at the federal courthouse as the judge announced the settlement in Williams versus American Airways. The airline had agreed to a historic $150 million settlement to be distributed among the class action participants, along with binding commitments to policy changes that would reshape how the company handled discrimination complaints. While no monetary amount can fully address the harm experienced by the plaintiffs, Judge Evelyn Montgomery stated, this court finds that the comprehensive nature of the settlement, particularly the structural changes to which the defendant has committed, represents a good faith effort toward meaningful remedy and prevention of future incidents. The structural changes included mandatory quarterly diversity training for all customer-facing staff, an independent review board for discrimination complaints, and automatic preservation of all security footage related to passenger incidents. Most significantly, the airline agreed to public reporting of discrimination complaints and their resolutions, creating unprecedented transparency in an industry known for closely guarded internal practices. Outside the courthouse, Jasmine addressed the assembled media alongside Darnell Washington. This case was never about money, she stated clearly. It was about accountability and systemic change. No passenger should ever experience what I and hundreds of others experienced. Today's settlement isn't an ending, it's a beginning of a new standard for how companies must respond when discrimination occurs within their operations. When asked about her personal journey, Jasmine was reflective. 6 months ago, I was a photographer trying to build my career. Today, I'm still a photographer, but I've gained a perspective that will inform my work forever. Sometimes the most important images are the ones that force us to confront uncomfortable truths about our society. That evening, Jasmine hosted a gallery opening featuring her photo series, Bearing Witness, portraits of individuals who had experienced discrimination in various settings but had chosen to speak out. Each powerful image was accompanied by the subject's personal story, creating a narrative of resilience and truth-telling that resonated with visitors from all backgrounds. Among the attendees was Alexandria Peters from Vogue, who had championed Jasmine's work within the fashion industry despite initial corporate reluctance. The magazine's special issue featuring Jasmine's photography had become its best-selling edition of the year, proving that substantive content addressing real social issues could also be commercially successful. You've changed how we think about fashion photography, Alexandria told Jasmine as they viewed the exhibition together. These images aren't just aesthetically powerful, they're culturally significant. They tell stories that matter. Across town, Taylor Brooks faced a different reality. Following her termination, she had been unable to secure employment in the airline industry or customer service field. The criminal charges for assault had been resolved with a plea agreement including community service and mandatory diversity training, but the professional consequences of her actions proved more lasting. Michael Reynolds, once a rising star in corporate PR, now served as a cautionary tale in business ethics seminars about the dangers of prioritizing company image over addressing actual misconduct. His termination had included forfeiture of stock options and benefits, and his reputation in the industry was irreparably damaged. American Airways had implemented its promised changes under the watchful eyes of both the court and the public. Keisha Johnson now headed the company's diversity and inclusion training division, developing programs that were being adopted as industry standards. We're seeing a fundamental shift in how incidents are handled, Keisha explained during an interview with Jordan Hayes for a follow-up article. Reports of discriminatory treatment are now taken seriously from the beginning, investigated thoroughly, and addressed transparently. It shouldn't have required a lawsuit to get here, but the change is real. Benjamin Torres had accepted a position with a tech ethics organization, developing protocols to protect whistleblowers in corporate settings. His experience had highlighted the vulnerability of those who expose wrongdoing, and his new work focused on creating secure channels for reporting misconduct without fear of retaliation. Anthony Parker had been promoted within airport security, now overseeing training on unbiased incident reporting and fair treatment of all passengers regardless of race or background. The procedures he developed were being implemented at airports nationwide. For Jasmine, the resolution brought complex emotions. Her photography career had flourished in unexpected ways, with her work now featured in major publications and galleries. She had launched the Williams Foundation for Visual Truth, supporting young photographers of color and projects documenting social justice issues. Yet she still struggled with forgiving herself for initially doubting her own experience, for those moments on the plane when she had wondered if she was overreacting, if she should simply accept the coffee spill as an accident despite knowing better. Those moments of self-doubt reflected the insidious nature of systemic discrimination, how it trained even its victims to question their own reality. The hardest part wasn't standing up to them, she confided to Darnell during a quiet moment at the gallery opening. It was standing up to the voice inside that had been conditioned to accept mistreatment as normal. 6 months after the settlement, Jasmine found herself at Atlanta International Airport again, preparing to board a flight for a commissioned photo shoot in Paris. As she moved through security and toward her gate, she noticed subtle but significant changes: more diverse staff, visible information about passenger rights, clear procedures for filing complaints. At her gate, she observed a young black woman confidently boarding her flight, interacting with crew members who showed genuine professionalism and respect. The woman's ease and expectation of fair treatment represented progress, however incremental. Jasmine captured the moment with her camera, not for publication, but as a personal reminder that change, while slow and imperfect, was possible. As her own boarding group was called, Jasmine reflected on her unexpected journey from victim to advocate to catalyst for change. The system hadn't transformed overnight, and much work remained, but meaningful steps had been taken. Her individual stand had connected to a larger movement, creating ripples that continued to spread through corporate America and beyond. Boarding the plane, Jasmine was greeted by a flight attendant whose name tag read Jordan. Their brief, professional interaction contained no drama, no tension, just the simple respect every passenger deserved. And in that ordinary moment lay perhaps the most profound victory of all: the possibility of normalcy, of travel without fear, of existing in public spaces without the constant vigilance that discrimination enforced. Jasmine's story teaches us that standing up against discrimination requires immense courage but can spark meaningful change. When systems protect the powerful, documentation becomes crucial. Jasmine's video and the security footage were pivotal in revealing the truth. This story demonstrates how corporations often prioritize image over accountability until public pressure forces transparency. We also see how quickly public opinion can shift without complete information, and how marginalized voices are often doubted until irrefutable evidence emerges. The most powerful lesson is that individual actions matter. Jasmine, Keisha, Anthony, and Benjamin each made choices that collectively transformed an industry. Their courage reminds us that staying silent perpetuates injustice, while speaking truth challenges the systems that enable discrimination. True change requires both personal bravery and structural reform. Jasmine's journey shows that justice, while difficult and costly to pursue, creates ripples that extend far beyond individual vindication to protect countless others from similar experiences. Have you ever witnessed discrimination and struggled with whether to speak up? What would you have done in Jasmine's position? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story about standing against racism resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience and justice. Your support helps spread these important messages to those who need to hear them. Share this with someone who needs encouragement to stand firm in their truth, even when powerful forces push back. Thank you for joining this journey toward a more just world where everyone is treated with dignity regardless of their race or background.